I'm so excited today to be joined by Congressman Jamie Raskin from Maryland. Congressman, it's so good to be here with you. Now, I really want to just jump right in and talk about one of the biggest headlines of the week, and that's Donald Trump accepting this $400 million jet from Qatar. What's your initial reaction to him accepting that jet, and do you believe it violates the Emoluments Clause of the United States Constitution?
Well, he cannot accept it without the consent of Congress. The Constitution says in Article 1, Section 9, that no federal official can, without the consent of Congress, accept a present, this is one, an emolument, which means a payment in office or title of any kind, whatever, from a king, a prince, or a foreign state. So you got to go to Congress. If it's such a great idea, if there's no bugs, if it's safe, if there's no surveillance, if it's not booby trapped, and if people think it's a good idea for the president to be indebted in that way to, an authoritarian, autocratic power, then Congress can vote to do it. But it will never do it. It will never do it. Trump can only get away with this by virtue of completely violating and dodging the Constitution.
Now, you were the former chair of the House Oversight Committee, and right now, Democrats obviously are not in power in the House of Representatives. I'm assuming if you were chairman right now, you would conduct some type of investigation into this. Is there anything that Democrats can do right now in the House of Representatives to investigate what is happening or at least push back against the agenda from the administration in the interim before 2026?
Well, the Judiciary Committee, and I'm assuming the Oversight Committee, although we've been on recess, so I haven't really spoken to them about it, but I will talk to them today. I'm assuming the Oversight Committee is also interested in doing everything that we can to conduct our own investigation. We don't control the gavel, so that's not a majority investigation, but we are not without means to figure out what's going on. But the truth is that Donald Trump has been very open and transparent about it. I mean, he actually believes he can take billions of dollars being funneled to him from foreign governments through his crypto meme coin. And he believes there's no problem snatching up a $400 million jet plane that they call a palace in the sky. He said he would be stupid not to. He's the kind of person who won't pass that up. And if it were a personality test, he'd be right. It's perfectly fine. He's not the kind of person to leave any money, whether it's lawful or unlawful, on the table, but it's a constitutional test. And that test requires him to come to Congress to receive it. I've gotten all this angry email from right wingers saying, well, what about the Eiffel Tower? We took the Eiffel Tower. Well, first of all, the Eiffel Tower, I mean, not the Eiffel Tower, the Statue of Liberty. What about the Statue of Liberty? France, gave us the Statue of Liberty. That's right, gave the country,
Right.
not one president, not President Grant, who signed the initial action of Congress, the joint resolution of Congress, and not President Cleveland, who accepted it under, again, an act of Congress. But it went to the government. It went to everybody. It went to the people. This is for Donald Trump's use. In fact, he's saying he's not going to leave it for the next president. He's going to take it to his library. Well, a library doesn't need an airplane, a new airplane that's going to be flying around. He's obviously going to use that himself. But in any event, when the Statue of Liberty was received by the United States, there was an action of Congress. First, a joint resolution to accept the offer, and then a joint resolution to accept the actual gift.
Right. No, that makes sense. Now, I do want to pivot and talk about your Truth in Tariffs Act. Could you tell folks a little bit about what that bill is and what the goal of the legislation is, especially in light of the recent tariffs
Yeah.
pause with China?
It's another lawless situation, Aaron, because Congress has the power to regulate commerce with foreign countries, not the president. He's invoking the International Economic Emergencies Powers Act, but it doesn't mention tariffs, and it's never been used for tariffs before. And what's the emergency anyway? When he made his announcement about the tariffs, he said this has been going on for decades, and I'm going to be the first one to deal with it. That doesn't sound like a real emergency to me. So in any event, it's likely all to be struck down. But in the meantime, we have a right to know as Americans how much money we're paying for the actual good we're buying whether it's a computer or a car or a book or whatever it is, and how much is coming in a tax. That's why when you go out to eat, you get your hamburger and your French fries, and then you get what the taxes are on it. Well, we should know what Donald Trump's national sales tax is. That's what a tariff is. It's basically a tax on sales being paid for by the consumers. So if we're buying a computer for $1,000, but it costs an extra $400 because of the tariff, it should state that. And that's all that the Truth in Tariffs Act is about.
So I guess practically speaking, say this bill passes and you go to Best Buy tomorrow and you buy a computer worth $1,000, does that mean that when you go to the register that it's going to show, okay, $1,000 plus $400 because of tariffs, or what does it look like practically?
Well, it's got to be before the register. It's got to be clear and conspicuously
Okay.
stated. So it could be right on the product, which is the easiest way to do it, or it could be, a sign right next to it, or what have you. Um, but yeah, it doesn't apply to small business because, small business is small business and they've got a tough enough time. But the big businesses and the big box stores, they can certainly state what it is, and it helps them too. So people don't say, "Hey, why'd you jack up the cost of this computer by $400 or whatever?" They can say, "No, that's Donald Trump who's doing that."
Now, is there any appetite to pass this legislation right now on Capitol Hill? You're going to need some support from Republicans. Is there anyone willing to kind of join on right now?
Well, the first dozen members I spoke to signed it. Like I just brought it out on the floor on Friday, and um, they all signed it immediately. Of course, those were all Democrats. So it's getting tougher and tougher to get the Republicans to defect from Donald Trump in any way. It's just getting more and more cult-like over there. But I don't know that any of them would want to speak against this, and I'm hoping a few of them would be able to stand up for it. Meantime, it's unclear what's going on with the tariffs because it's such a chaotic helter-skelter situation. And then Trump just dramatically dropped the tariffs against China, which is weird because he was saying this is a good thing. This is going to help everybody. Well, why would you drop it then if it was something that was going to help everybody? So, there's no rhyme or reason to what comes out of the White House.
Right. No, that makes sense. And I guess my final kind of topic here to cover is the upcoming budget negotiations between now and the end of the fiscal year. The Congressional Budget Office recently issued a report showing that the Republican plan that they introduced or presented to the public would potentially cost up to 13.7 million people losing their health care. What's kind of the response or the appetite right now on Capitol Hill to pass this legislation? I know there's a lot of negotiation about the SALT deduction. Some Republicans in blue states like New York aren't necessarily happy with the bill as it's presented. So what's happening on Capitol Hill in terms of that right now?
Well, look, authoritarianism is just a war of the richest and most powerful elite against everybody else. And that's why they're trying to dismantle Medicaid and Social Security and wage war on the health benefits of the people. I think that by going out to all these Republican town halls where the Republicans refuse to go, as I've been doing and other Democrats have been doing, by taking it right into their backyards and telling people that they are trying to gut the social functions of the federal government, we are turning up the heat on a dozen or 2 dozen Republicans who are very afraid that they're going to lose if they go along with this. And so we are steadily eroding the support for this nightmare program. What do they want to do? They want to cut $880 billion out of the human budget and turn it into another tax break for the wealthiest people in the country. And we're just not going to allow them to get away with that.
And what's your prediction here? Do you think this bill will end up passing as is? Do you have any insight?
Well, I think that we're going to stop them. Donald Trump is sinking in the polls. He's crashed the stock market. The economy is on the rocks. He took what was considered the envy of the world economy, which is what the Economist magazine called it, from President Biden, and he's just turned it into this wreckage and flotsam and jetsam. And I don't, he's starting to feel a lot like a lame duck to me. And I think a lot of these Republicans do not want to go down with that ship, and these are Republicans who are very nervous because, they're from California, they're from New York, they're in New Jersey, and they can see the forces of democracy and freedom rising all over the country against the lawlessness and the chaos.
Well, we'll see what happens next. Congressman, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thanks for everything you do, Aaron. Hang tough.